What's up, y'all? Welcome and welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Melva, simply Melva that is, and your girl is back with another video. Yes, I am back with another video, and today it is going to be a story time. I'm going to be letting y'all in on my crazy edible story. If you guys would like to stick around and hear this story, keep on watching. So before we get into the story time, if you are new here, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And yeah, y'all, let's get into it. Okay, y'all, so I'm not going to be telling y'all all the products that I'm going to be using because I'm going to be telling y'all a story. So, yeah. So basically one day, me, Joshua, which is my boyfriend, and one of his cousins, Tara, we was all sitting in the living room chilling, like we was having a little sassy sesh. And one of Joshua's partners ended up coming by. And let me just put that in there that I've tried edibles before, but they was never like hitting. Like, I didn't feel nothing at all. So every time somebody say they got an edible, I'm like, okay, like whatever. So this particular day, one of his partners came by or whatever, and he was like, my partner got some edibles or whatever. And so Josh was like, baby, like, you know, he said his partner got some edibles. And I'm like, whatever. Like, you know, everybody always saying they got some strong edibles and this and that and the third, and it ain't nothing. So he was like, you want me to get some or what? And I'm like, what is it? And he was like, brownies. And so I'm like, yeah, cool. We can try it out or whatever. And so the dude came or whatever, and he was like, well, I'm gonna let y'all know now, like, these strong. I'm like, yeah, okay. He was like, no, for real, they strong as hell, because they had, I think it was 99 point something percent sour diesel wax in it. And so I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. So he was like, eat a piece of a piece, like that's how strong it is. And he was like, don't have nothing to do. And we was like, okay. So Josh ended up getting the brownie or whatever. So we sitting in the living room. Josh like, well shit, I'm about to take a piece of the brownie or whatever. He said take a piece of a piece. So he gave me, Tara, and himself a piece of the brownie. And so so, you know, when he gave me the first piece, it was just like a little piece. So, y'all, I'm gonna be using my little thing, so I'm gonna be looking down. But so he gave us all a piece or whatever, and I'm sitting there chilling, and I'm like, I don't feel nothing. So Josh was like, well, I'll give you another piece. And I'm like, all right, because he took another piece. And then Tara ended up taking another piece. But this time it was like a slither, like it probably about this long, and probably about that, like that wide. It wasn't much of nothing to me, so I thought. And yeah, so we all took a second piece or whatever, and so we just sitting there chilling, talking and everything. And then Tara was like, well shit, I think I'm high, y'all, like I'm about to go home. I was like, all right, bet. So I'm just sitting there and I'm like, shit, I'm like, I think I'm high too. And so I told Josh, I was like, shit, I think I feel it. So I had walked to the back to my room, and I had put my phone on the charger. And so I walked back to the living room, and like within that few minutes, Tara calls my phone. Y'all, I hope I can do this because talking and doing my makeup at the same time would be kind of hard. But Tara called my phone, right? So I answers the phone, and I'm like, hey Tara, what's up? And she like, bitch, I'm high as fuck. And she laughing like at the same time, and I'm like, chill, like what the hell? And she was like, nah, for real. She like, shit, I think I'm high as hell. And I'm like, okay, well just, you know, just chill out or whatever and don't trip. So she was like, all right. So I hung up the phone with Tara, and I was just sitting there, like, I think, I'm trying to remember everything, but I think I was just sitting there for a second, because I was like, damn, like, she sounded like, you know what I'm saying, like she was really hot. So a few seconds later, Tara calls my phone again. I'm used to Tara calling my phone like over and over again. Once she start calling, she gonna call all day long. So I'm used to that, but this time was different. So she calls again, and I'm like, what's up, Tara? And she like, Melva, for real? She like, no. She like, bitch, I can't stop laughing. I'm like, are you serious? She like, I'm for real. She like, I'm starting to get scared. And I'm like, oh shit. And I'm like, man, stop tripping, like chill out. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here trying to keep myself together because I'm like, god damn, like I'm hot as hell. And I'm like, I don't want to be this hot. So I'm trying to keep myself together and trying to keep her together at the same time. So she like, man, she like, you got Joshua down there and I'm down here by myself. She like, shit. She like, man, for real, I'm high. And I'm like, all right, calm down. So I hangs up the phone with her again. I go to the living room, y'all. Josh, this whole time, Josh is in the living room. I go to the living room, Josh is sweeping. And I'm like, Josh, Tara say she's scared, like, you know what I'm saying? She tripping, like she said she can't stop laughing or whatever. And he's like, y'all tripping, like what the hell? But the whole time, y'all, he's steady sweeping the floor, like he ain't stopped sweeping the floor yet. And I'm like, Josh, you act like you not concerned. He like, shit, I ain't. He like, y'all tripping. I'm like, nah, for real. So the whole time I hear my phone ringing again, and I'm like, damn, that's Tara. So I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what is going on? And so then I go back to the room and I answer the phone. I'm like, what's up, Tara? And she like, Melva, I'm scared. She like, I can't get in my bed. Like, I'm like, why you can't get in your bed? She like, that whole rocking, like my bed is rocking. I'm like, what? I'm sitting here like, what? Are you tripping? And she's like laughing in the midst of wanting to cry and all this shit all at the same time. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm like, oh no. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I'm gonna tell Josh to come down there. So I go to the living room again. Josh is steady sweeping. I mean, sweeping the floor hard as hell. Do you hear me? He was so determined about sweeping this floor, like he didn't even care about what I was talking about. So I end up getting scared, and I'm like, oh my gosh, y'all. I instantly start praying. I'm like, oh Lord, like please, what is going on? I'm like, yo, this is crazy. So Tara steady calling my phone. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm scared. So I'm like, I can't, like, Tara, I can't even like fathom listening to you at this point because you got me scared as hell. So she's like, Melva, like, yo, like somebody gotta come help me. She like, y'all, I'm down here about to die. I'm like, whoa. She say, she like, what? Like, what is going on? I'm like, yo, this is getting, you know, it's going too far, basically. And so Josh comes to the room. I think I ended up hanging up the phone with Tara. And Josh ended up coming to the room. And I'm sitting on the bed. And y'all, it's like, I felt like my heart was being wrung out like a rag. Like, you know, when you wringing out a rag, like I felt like my heart was being wrung out. Like, I was like, what is going on? And mind y'all, I'm scared the whole time. I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, what is going on here? And I mean, I'm telling you, I had to stop answering the phone for Tara because she was like really tripping out. And I'm like, you got me scared. Like, I'm scared as hell. And Josh is sitting over here worried about sweeping the floor. The whole time I'm trying to tell him, like, okay, now we need to send help because, you know, she down there calling me back to back. She not, you know what I'm saying, she tripping. And so he's like, man, y'all tripping, like y'all need to chill out. And I'm like, no, well, like this wasn't supposed to happen. I'm like, what is going on? Y'all, like, oh my gosh. It started from a piece of a piece. And then we took another piece. Like, yo. So Josh goes back to the living room and starts sweeping the floor again. Because he was so determined to get there to sweep the damn floor. And I'm just sitting on the bed. I'm sitting on our bed. And I'm like, basically, shit, contemplating life at this point. Like, contemplating life. Like, for real. I was like, okay, well now I'm finna die. Like, I feel like I'm finna die. Like, this don't make no sense. I was like, I was so, y'all, I knew this would have felt like to die. So I was just like, oh my gosh. I was like, my mama gonna kill me. Like, okay, I'm saying I already feel like I'm about to go pass on, and shit, here it is. I'm saying my mama gonna kill me. Like, y'all, I had so many thoughts going through my mind. Like, I was like, I got shit to do. Like, I got kids. Like all that shit. So yeah, y'all, so I'm like, man, I got kids. Like, I got shit to do, basically. I'm like, damn. So basically, I had put my phone like out of sight so I wouldn't see it or whatever. I was like, shit, she got me scared. So I'm like, I don't even want to answer my phone again, because if I answer it again, like, I just know, like, it's gonna be bad. So basically, I'm sitting on my bed, and it was like the room started closing in on me. Like, the room felt so small. Like, I was just sitting there in disbelief. Like, what? Like, oh my god, y'all, no lie, I was like, okay, well, if this keeps happening to me, then I'm gonna have to call the cops. Like, I'm gonna have to call the police, because I'm not well right now, and I'm like, shit, Tara needs some help, and you know, I'm scared. So Tara ends up calling again, and I end up answering, and I'm like, what's up? And she like, bitch, I'm about to call the cops. She like, I need some help. She like, I need some help down here. She was like, you got Joshua down there, and I'm down here by myself, me and my dog. And she like, shit, I need some goddamn professional help. So I was like, oh my gosh, like, Tara, what the hell? And she laughing her ass off, y'all. It's like wanting to cry all at the same time. Like, shit was crazy, yo. So I'm like, Josh, she said she's gotta call the cops. Like, she gotta call the ambulance or whatever. And he was like, man, what the hell? He like, man, I'm about to go down there. Like, I'm about to come down there with you or whatever. And she's like, okay. And so I'm like, wait a minute, like, you about to go down there? I'm like, well, shit, who gonna be here with me? And he was like, well, that's my cousin, like, I need to go down there and check on her and see about her. I'm like, I know. I'm like, I told you to check on her first. Like, I know. But I'm like, well, damn, I'm scared. Like, I'm like, you can't leave me. I'm like, if you leave me and I die, then what the hell? He's like, man, what is going on? He like, you tripping. I'm like, Joshua, like, I'm looking him in his face like, Josh, you know me. Like, I would not be telling you this shit if I did not need help. I'm like, I need help. I need you to call the damn cops for me. He was like, I'm not calling no damn cops or whatever. He was like, you just need to calm down. Like, you tripping. And I'm like, oh shit, like, here it is. Like, this is what my life is going to be. Like, I'm in this thing tripping, y'all. So Josh was like, well then, all right, then I'm not gonna go down there with her or whatever. I'm gonna stay here with you or whatever until you get, you know, yourself together or whatever. So I'm like, something has to happen. I'm like, I know this guy. Like, I remember what he looked like. I'm like, he needs to go to jail. Like, what? Like, this is crazy. I already had this shit planned out, y'all. If the cops was coming and they asked me, like, who the hell, like, gave you this shit? I'm like, I remember what he looked like. I remember all this shit. I'm like, that nigga need to go to jail, because that shit ain't right. And so I'm like sitting there or whatever, and I'm telling Josh, I'm like, yo, I need some help. Like, I need some help. And he like, boo bad, like, you gonna be all right. So he ended up calling one of his homeboys or whatever and explaining to him the situation, explain to him and his girlfriend the situation or whatever. And they like, well, tell her to smoke a Reggie Sweet to, you know, balance it out or whatever, so she won't be tripping and whatnot. And I'm like, I'm not smoking nothing, I'm not eating nothing, I'm not doing none of that shit. I'm like, Josh, I need you to call the damn cops. he was like, I'm not calling the cops, Melva. Like, you're okay. You gonna be okay. We gonna be laughing about this shit. And, you know, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, man, I sure hope you're right. I'm like, 'cause that dude is going to jail. Like, tonight. He's going to jail. And y'all, I mean, I was just like, I was out of it. Like, I don't even know. I was just like, you know, I got shit to do. So I wanted to grab my phone, y'all. Like, I picked it up. I remember picking my phone up. But when I looked at it, I got scared. I was like, what the hell? Like, I got scared holding the damn phone. I was like, y'all, because if I wasn't so scared, y'all, I would have called 911, like, for myself. Because I told Josh, I said, at least I know I have a chance. If my ass is about to fall out here and die today, they'll be on the way and maybe they can resuscitate my ass and bring me back to life. Y'all, like, this is real shit. I wish I was making this shit up, but I wasn't. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, oh shit. So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about all this shit that I gotta do the next day. I'm like, yo, this is out of hand. I'm like, that guy is definitely going to jail. I'm like, because trying to explain this to my mom, my family, like, they gonna be, what? All this shit, if I don't come out of this shit, it's gonna be some shit. So I was like, yo, I don't even know at this point. So we sitting there, Josh trying to keep me calm or whatnot, and then all of a sudden, like, I hear something sounding like kind of like a dump truck or whatever, and it was the EMS. I was like, oh shit. I'm like, it's the cops. Like, the cops are outside. And Josh is like, oh shit, now I gotta go down there. Like, I have to go check on my cousin or whatever. And I'm like, all right. I was like, I'm gonna be all right. I'm gonna just sit here or whatever. Y'all, I'm pacing back and forth from the living room to my room, from the living room to my room. I'm like, Lord, I hope they come down here and ask me if I'm okay. Like, because I need some help. Like, I need some help. And so I'm like, if they ask me, you know, what's going on or what happened or whatever, I'm just gonna have to tell them the truth. I'm like, y'all, I had so much shit going through my mind. I say, this is what I get. Like, this is what I get. They told me that, you know what I'm saying? They told me to take a piece of a piece, and my ass wanted to do otherwise, and here I am scared as hell. So I see the lights or whatever from outside the window or whatever, and I'm panicking because I'm like, if they come here, what am I supposed to say? Like, what am I gonna do? I'm like, Lord, we're gonna go to jail, like, all this shit. I was like, see, this is that bullshit. I was like, I can't believe that I actually took this shit. I'm like, I didn't know that guy. Like, you know what I'm saying? It could have been anything, like, real shit. It could have been anything. So I was like, you know what I'm saying? Yep, like, that was it for me. I was like, I don't want shit. Like, I don't want no weed. Like, I don't want nothing. And so after that, I was like standing, I opened the door, the front door, and I was standing in the door, and one of Joshua's other cousins was passing by, because we all live in the same apartment complex or whatever, and she was going to go check on Tara, which is her sister. So she was like, Melva, like, what the fuck? Like, what's going on? And I'm like, yo, I'm like, that freaking edible, yo. She was like, shit. She was like, you want another one? I'm like, hell no. She was like, damn, it had y'all like that? And I'm like, yes. I'm like, I don't want nothing. Like, I'll never try edible ever again in my fucking life. Like, never again in life. And so after that, Josh ended up coming back to the house or whatnot, and I was like, well, what did the cops say? And he was like, shit, they basically was treating Tara or whatever, and they told her shit, she was higher than a Georgia pine. They was just like, she all right, she gonna be all right or whatever. I was like, yo, like, this is crazy. I'm like, we had to call the cops and all this shit. I was like, man, that's some crazy shit. And yeah, he just basically came back to the house and we was chilling. But the whole time, you know what I'm saying, as I'm pacing and going back and forth, like, my high's coming down, and that made me happy because I'm like, shit, I know that this shit's gonna go away, and that shit, I ain't losing my goddamn mind. Like, I ain't losing my mind. Like, I'm gonna be all right. But I just knew that that was it for me. I knew for shit show that I was going to the upper room, child. I couldn't believe it. But yeah, y'all, that was basically my little experience with it. I ain't even done with my makeup, but that was my little experience with it. And I can honestly say I will never, hear me again, me will never eat another edible ever in life. Done with it. Done with it. Do you hear me? I don't know. There's nothing you can say to me. There's nothing like, this shit bomb, this, that. Y'all can have it. Do you hear me? One time takes enough for me. Like, that shit, it wasn't worth it. Okay, guys, I did a couple things off camera simply because, you know, so this video wouldn't be so long. But yeah, y'all, that was my edible experience. And again, yeah, I would never eat another edible ever in life. But I'm gonna go ahead and finish this makeup and y'all can just watch. So this is going to be the end of this video. If you guys like what you saw, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on your post notification bell so that you're notified every time your girl uploads a video. As always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.